So anyway, why don't we just open in prayer? Alistair, do you want to open in prayer?
So, Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity that you give us to work together to serve you through different means, Galcom being one of them for many of the people here. But Lord, we thank you that we can, be part of a team that's taking your word to next door as well as around the world. And we pray that as Bob speaks this morning for him, that you would bless him and help him to speak clearly, concisely, and would help each one of us to be able to gain some insight from what he says. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
So the latest in the, just to say that Rosemary is working with our church, and we're working on getting a team to go to Peru at the beginning of May. And Grace is probably coming on that trip as well. And Rosemary's got, well, I don't know, 6 people at this point that want to go on the trip, I think, 5 or 6. So we can't hear you because it's muted. Oh. You're still muted. Oh, there. Now you're not muted. Okay, there you go.
I tried to get it on my computer and it had to be updated, and then so I'm on my phone, so it's all on here.
It's small, and you can't see all of us either, probably.
We're excited, yes, about going to Peru, very much.
Yeah. So we're going to Alistair, I don't know if you want to just so that I'm not the only one talking. Why don't you just say where we're going and who we're going to work with?
So yes, for those of you that have been to Peru before, like Louise and Bob and Rosemary, you guys already know Marquez and Sarah, or at least Marquez. Anyway, I know Louise knows both of them. So we're going to be heading back to the city of Huánuco, and we're going to be working with Felix Caico, and Felix was the translator for the Huallaga Quechua Bible. So when Shelley and I lived in Huánuco back in the 90s, Felix was working with a team on, well, he and David Weber was the gringo that was working with him, but they were working on the Huallaga Quechua at the time. And then David basically left Felix in charge because he was a very capable guy. And since that time, they've not only done the New Testament, but they met together with a committee where there's probably about 6 Quechua dialects in that area, which are not close enough that they're easily understandable between them, but they're close enough that you can work together once you know what the common differences are, and you can substitute the words and the endings, and they use a lot of suffixes on their words in Quechua. So sometimes the root word might be the same, but the suffix would have to change. So that's what they did. And so a team worked together and produced the Old Testament, like I said, in about 6 different Quechua dialects at the same time. So one of them was the Huallaga, and we now have it newly available. When we went last time, only the New Testament had been recorded, but now the whole thing's available, and Ken has very nicely got everything all formatted for us and ready to go on our new Compass players. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thanks, Ken, that you did that. That's
You're welcome. Yeah. It was pretty quick, actually. Once I used the Spanish voice prompts, it was fairly easy.
Yeah, I figured it was because you had it done within an hour. So
that's good. Yeah, and from the Ecuador team, just to say that the church that, like Don's church in BC, and some other people, they sent quite a bit of money in. I don't know, it was all coming from Don's church, but then there was other people, I think, and Abby, the missionary that we spoke with last time, she now has a vehicle. So that's exciting. She didn't have a vehicle, so she's been, a lot of people donated through that trip. Anyway, and she's really excited, and they're all excited about doing the audio recording of the Old Testament, and she wants another team to come, and she's just so excited. So that's really good, and it's given her kind of, not that she didn't have purpose before, she always has had purpose to work with what she's doing, but it's just a really direct, clear way that she can go forward. So that's good. And so we're at some point, probably not this year, but next year, hopefully we can take a team down there to Ecuador to where she is. So one of our own, Bob Gaines, went to Tanzania. We have some exciting things that he's going to tell us about his trip to Tanzania. So I'll start out with the questions. I know some of them kind of appear a little out of order, but the first question is, hi Bob, how are you, by the way?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a week of an appointment, so it's been interesting. But anyways,
Yeah, well, we're glad you took the time to be here, of course, because without it, then we wouldn't have had to got to talk to you. So we're glad we can.
that's true.
So I don't know if anybody has their list of questions, but I have the list of questions beside me. So how long was your flight?
Well, the flight, and from what I could dig up, because I didn't go back and look at, because I'm not sure what I did with part of my itinerary. But anyways, it's around 20 hours plus the connection, so probably around 23 hours, one way. And then not really following the flight pattern, but just kind of the way they quickly show it from Barstow to Nairobi is 9,563 miles. So that's
Wow.
pretty crazy. And then 3 hours in a car after that to where Francis lives in Nakuru, if I'm saying that right. But anyways, I think I'm close. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so and again, so got in at 11 p.m. So of course I didn't see much, on that driving trip. But anyways, yeah, 20 plus hours, which is pretty normal for just about anywhere in Africa, from what I remember. Some trips a little longer, some a little less. But
What was your connection then? You went somewhere in Europe probably. What was the connecting flight that you had?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like, one of the questions you asked, who did you see God work? Yeah, well, we're at church Sunday, and I'm flying out on Monday, and we get all this notification that my flight was canceled.
Oh, no.
So then God took care of that through Jasmika, and I was really glad that I had used them, because I wouldn't have known what to do. And
Mhm.
the AI stuff that the airport uses, they booked me on 2 flights that I wouldn't have made. I'd have missed the first one for sure, and I'd have never made the second one either, because they gave you like a half hour to make the connection. So I mean, like, you guys you can't set the AI stuff up better than that. So that was right off the bat. And I mean, everybody that goes knows there's always something. I mean, here, there, part of it. I mean, the only way to not experience this stuff and then see God work is not to go. So,
Right.
one of the reasons to go is to see and have that experience of God, dealing with things. And I mean, it's just, yeah. So that was crazy right off the bat. And I mean, and for some reason, because my phone kept going off, I looked at it at church, which, I mean, I couldn't do anything about it right then anyways, or maybe it was before we left. I'm not sure. I think it was probably before we left, because I got a hold of Jasmika before we went. But anyways, so yeah, so quite a trip. I mean, it's far. I mean, it just is. So, but anyways, and it's always one of the things, the whole thing though, this trip though, it seemed like no matter what's disparaging things are said about the airlines and this and that and whatever, what was it, United? I'm not sure, but it was almost flawless. I mean, it was like getting in your car and going for a drive. And whether the plane was old or new, which I had a good variety. The landings were, I don't know, they seemed like they were smoother and better than ever. And like one of the older planes, it was like I couldn't even really feel it touch down. So I'm like, whoever that pilot was, they did outstanding. But anyways,
Well,
so
that's all the people praying for you.
well, that's true too. I mean, this time, I mean, I don't know if any of you did it, but we had some people tell us from Brenda's women's Bible study that were praying. They actually got on and followed the trip, through the airline. So I hadn't even thought to do that before, you know, for other people, but I go, well, that's kind of fascinating because you're in touch all the time then with, you know, where the person is. And if something changes, you find out right away, you know, because you're watching, you know, their flight plans. So,
Oh.
so that was kind of fascinating too, because I didn't even know you could even do that as not the person flying. Maybe Brenda gave him some information. I'm not sure, but anyways, so that was neat too, just like you said, Shelley, all the prayers. I mean, like, why should I be, you know, surprised? But I do. I mean, I don't want to lose that. I always want to be surprised by God, even, and, you know, and not in a thing where I'm not believing he's not going to do stuff and take care of me, but in just that, oh, wow, he took care of that. And on the way home, we actually sat for a while, and because they said there was something wrong with our brakes or something, I don't know. And then they're doing all this stuff, and but everything was fine. So I don't know what that was about, but it was one little hitch on the way home, and I don't know, maybe it's a thing to make, you know, me, somebody else, lots of us on the plane nervous, or to help us get sick. Is it was a coughing convention, as I think I've told Al and Shelley, you know, already before. I never heard so many sick people in my life, and then I was one of them. So, anyways, it was interesting. But God really helped me when I got home. I was sick for about a week and a half longer, but the doctor, I did one of those phone things, and she went right away. Well, because you were around so much sickness and you're sick right now, let's give you 5 days worth of antibiotics. So then one of those other things doesn't make you sick even longer that you were around. So, and it worked. I think it was only about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, the cough with whatever this stuff is, if any of you had it just seems to linger for a while. So, I mean, you feel great, everything's fine, but you're still coughing off and on. But anyways, so yeah, that's more than you asked. But anyways, there you go.
So did I miss, Bob? You landed in Paris, was it, on the way? Is that right?
on the way back.
And on the way,
landed in Amsterdam on the way.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it was Amsterdam going, and a slight little 1 hour detour because of the flight change into was it Utah? Yeah, I think it was Utah. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, we're
And
glad
that was just, you know, get on the plane and basically almost get off the plane, you know, kind of thing. It was, you know, very short, but it was the only way that it could still work and maintain my other connections. So big shout out to Jasmika for arranging all that and keeping it together.
who did you stay with when you were there? I think most people know that, but it's nice for you to be able to say it.
You know, I don't know if most of you know, but Francis and I have been on several trips together. I've been privileged to attend the meeting with Alistair and Kevin and Francis about the South Sudan, the Coyote radio station project. And Francis and I don't know, we're just buddies. So anyways, and he makes me think because he reads a lot and he asks a lot of questions, and it's always fascinating to be with him. But this time I got to be with his family too in their home, and they had like a little guest room set up and stuff. So it was neat. And to get to know Ruth and Declan and Raylan, their two sons, was just a blessing in and of itself, you know, to just share with them. And it was, and you know, for me, you know, food is awesome, and Ruth was a great cook. So, and everything there is just so fresh. Almost nothing is processed. So I think that's one of the biggest problems with a lot of our health issues in our countries and all the developed world, is so much stuff is so processed. But anyways, yeah, so I stayed with them, and we had a wonderful time. So
How long was your trip altogether?
I think it was right at a week and a half, somewhere in there, from like the end of November to the 13th, 14th in December. So yeah, about a week, 2 weeks and a half. So
2.5 weeks. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. What were the roads like?
Well, the roads are interesting, and I didn't learn this till I left because I've always wondered, you know, here they have these, you know, these basically highways like what we would have here, and you realize you're going to go through small towns and cities, and so you're going to have stoplights. Well, there they don't have any stoplights. So your road gets broken up by speed bumps that are on from the way to, we're going to tear everything up in your insides and break your shocks or your axle to, it was like, you know, a nothing, but they're there nonetheless to slow you down because there's no signal lights. So if those things weren't there, there'd be more pedestrians, you know, or the people in the villages run over. And even right as you get into Nairobi, you know, until you can take the expressway, there were these speed bumps, you know, and here you go, you're just barely picking up speed, and it's almost like here's another village and you're slowing down again. So it takes quite a while, you know, no matter the speed you're able to maintain for a while, because you are going to slow down. It's not like you can try and plan and catch the light as you're on one of the highways here or in Canada or wherever. But some of that stuff that was interesting, I look back up some of the things, and that first trip that we went on to Maralal from Kenya was like 167 miles, 269 kilometers, which took right at about 3.5 to 4 hours. So that was amazing. And then the long trip where we traveled, you know, around most of Lake Victoria, which I've never seen so much of Africa in my life. And I'll never, it's a lifetime trip. I'll never forget some of this stuff. The T-Belt, it's one of the, I mean, it stands up for me with the Grand Canyon as being one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. T that just seems to go on forever. At least 50 miles of it. And then from the one side of the road, I mean, it stretched all the way to the horizon. I mean, it was, yeah, they grow a lot of tea to put it concisely. But anyways, and then bananas and corn were a lot that way too. There were belts they were growing in. And then along with rice too, the main staples of the country. But anyways, and just the beauty, I mean, because they've had a lot of rain too and been recovering from a drought. There's just the, I don't know, some of the wavy grass remind me of pictures of Ireland and Scotland even, you know, along the side of the road. So, I mean, it was like an overwhelming, violent green explosion in my brain because, you know, we live here where it's mostly brown. And then as we like to say, brown is a color too. But yeah, just the beauty and the things on the trips, and the doggone thing. 700 miles is what we traveled from Nakuru in Kenya to Karagwe in Tanzania. So that was yeah, quite the road trip, and definitely saw a lot of Africa. But anyways, looks like maybe I'll get to do it again here. I don't know, somewhere end of March, April, I think. But anyways, yeah. So it was great fun. And one of the things in all that I learned, and I will never do it again, you don't go on any road trip in Africa without putting some amount of toilet paper and keeping it on your person, because they're trying to change them to the European way where you use I don't know what, you know, I mean, yeah, anyways. And the only thing that saved me a couple of times was the paper in my journal. So that's a good reason to journal while you're on a trip too. So anyways, there we go. Bob and his crassness or whatever, or just normalness, or willing to share even the silly things. But oh, and a headlamp. You got to keep a headlamp with you because you're going to be traveling at night if you do one of these things, because a lot of the gas stations, their bathrooms aren't lighted. A lot of them are very nice. I mean, they challenge the US, etc. So don't think they're all that way. But I mean, there is stuff you get out, you know, in the middle of, you know, nowhere places, and it's sketchy. So headlamp and toilet paper. Don't forget that if you're going to do one of these road trips through Africa. And maybe that's that way in a lot of places. I don't know. I've mostly spent a lot of my time with Galcom in Africa, so that's my biggest frame of reference. So, anyways,
Well, good advice. We'll have to put that in our book, our manual.
there you go.
Same when you travel to Bolivia.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Don't forget the toilet paper. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, to
It's a-
keep it on your person, because I mean, you know, it's one of those things you don't know. So it's, yeah.
I think the things that we consider our rights here, we consider that a right, right? Just to be able to
Pretty much.
washroom that's clean and has all of the things that we think we need, hot water, cold water, paper towels to dry your hands, all of those things we consider it a right, but it's not a right. We're very privileged, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you see any animals that you don't usually see? What animals did you get to see?
Oh my goodness. One of the neatest things for me was to see the elements on the way to the Supa FM station in Malalar. I mean, they were, what they've done, you know, I think it was like a 4-lane highway, I'm pretty sure, 2 going each direction. So instead of the elephants causing a problem for the farmers on the opposite side of the freeway, they were fenced off with a little bit of electrical in the fence too. But it was like, I mean, you know, I'm like 10, 15 feet away from them, and they're just eating the acacia trees up. It was amazing. There was 8, 10, 12 of them, about 30, 40 people were all stopped there. So it was real easy for us to see something was going on. And they're just there, you know, nonchalant, eating away. And then of course the farmers, that they have it fenced on their side too. And so again, so here they are, they're thinking about the animals, because if they get over and get in their farmlands, it's going to be bad for both of them. So they had done something to protect their farmland and help protect the elephants too. So I thought that was really neat. And then the other thing with that, it was one of these spur of the moment things, and you guys kind of know, I mean, Al does especially, you know, with me and my beard and stuff, and we do this ho-ho Santa Claus thing, and of course I'm there during that almost time. So again, and I know it's kind of, well, it is. I mean, I'm storytelling because I have this story that I used several times while I was there, you know, about how I'm Santa Claus and I'm running from the elves because at this busy time of year, they're driving me crazy. So I had to get away from there for a little while. And I'd always wanted to see Kenya or see Tanzania, depending where I was. So please, if you see these funny little short people running around, don't tell them. And then people are laughing, people are connected. And right there with the elephants, then I shared about Jesus' birthday and how they need to know him and he's calling them home. So I had an audience of about 20, 25 people, kids and adults. And it was just precious, you know, I mean, and there were lots of those times. I mean, one of my favorite times doing that was a whole group of boys. We were parked by they have a big entrance sign going into Malalar, and I'm probably not saying that one right, but anyways, where Supa FM is. And so they were doing like a film thing for this documentary they're going to put together. And then this group of boys just come up, and as I said hi to them and asked them how they were doing, it was one of the neatest things, and it was the only time this happened. One or two of the boys actually asked me how I was doing. It just really touched my heart. And then I, you know, did the Santa Claus thing again. It was so funny. One of the kids had a sweater with Santa Claus on it. So I have that picture somewhere that from Francis, and that was like icing on the cake. But anyways, so I did that kind of routine again, and then talked to them about Jesus and found out lots of them knew Jesus. And then the ones that didn't raise their hand, then I challenged the rest of them. Well, you guys need to bring your friends up to speed and let them know about Jesus and, you know, how good he is to you and stuff. So we did that same kind of thing in the farmer's market there in Karagwe. I wish I'd had some candy canes and stuff, but anyways, I have them now. 75% off at Walmart, and they're good for years. So anyways, I'm ready for next time. But anyways, yeah, baboons, some hyenas, some the elk type antelope and things too. Just gorgeous. We saw some water buffalo from far off too as we were by Lake Victoria. But I mean, the one baboon is the biggest baboon I've ever seen in my life, and he's just like going across the 4-line freeway, like looking at us, like, "What are you looking at? This is my land, not yours," you know, kind of thing. So it was amazing. Truly amazing.
It does sound amazing. When we're done the call, maybe you can send us, or maybe I have some pictures on file anyway. We've sent a few pictures out of, so people can see some of the things that you said.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of getting to share the gospel with those kids and all of that? That's pretty amazing. And I'm just thankful for your faithfulness of saying it and using those opportunities.
Sorry
What-
about that.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways, the purpose was, it was actually, I said it was like, I wrote some, stuff down. I said it was threefold, but it was actually fourfold, because in Malalar at Supa FM, which was the first short trip within Kenya, all the way to the northern end of Kenya. Anyways, the purpose there, they did, Francis and Dan, who's a videographer, and he takes care of radio stations for his church too. I assume that's who it's for. I'm not absolutely positive, but anyways, so they're doing wiring and stuff and helping. I think they did some training, and so they actually asked me to share on the radio. So I shared kind of the way, not with the Santa Claus, but shared about this kind of theme that really hit me during this trip about coming home, and about kind of sharing out of John 14, and where Jesus says, "You don't need to be worried or fearful, because I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if it wasn't so, I wouldn't have told you, and I will come and get you." And so this whole thing was kind of developed. And so then I shared that on the radio. And then they also did a set of where John, I think he's the director or manager of the radio station, I'm pretty sure he is, then just asked me some, questions. And so that was all interesting. Then we did some Christmas stuff with me just there, moving and humming along with the Swahili songs, and then shouting ho 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 at the end. And then we made some radio spots like, "This is Supa FM," kind of things. And it was a blast. And what neat people, John and Nathan, and then I'm glad I didn't bet Francis, because the two girls and the young man that sang the Christmas carols, I thought for sure she was like, a high schooler. And so I was telling Francis, "Oh no, she's in high school." Francis, "No, she's like 25 or so." So I had him call John and ask, and she was 25. So I was like lost. So I have no idea, the ladies in Africa anymore, what their ages are. So I just have no idea. But anyways, something also that was interesting. So yeah, all those things were really neat. And then the main mission was, the biggest thing was to get the station in Karagwe for Magize, to get the concrete work done for the down guy attachments and for the base of the tower, to go back and then get him off the government tower, which they want him off of it. And they want him out of their building too. And so then he'll have his own tower, which will then save him money, which will then help the church, which will help everything. So, and we got all that done. I mean, it was like we did all the concrete work, because we had 10 or 12 guys helping us, and I couldn't have done what they did. They mixed all this concrete with the rock and with the sand on a cement slab that they just happened to have there at the church. And they're mixing it, keeping count of buckets to buckets of this to that. And I mean, you would not know from looking at the finished product that it just didn't come out of a funnel off a cement truck. I mean, and then we added more rocks along the way too, to help with the weight and the I guess the robustness of the concrete. Plus then it makes the concrete go further too. So that was the main thing. And then we also, in Mwanza, for Megike's radio station there, we put up new dishes so then they could buy the Wi-Fi units to transmit the studio and the station information up to the antenna site, because it was a good distance. So we put new, better dishes. Well, Francis and them did most of it. My biggest thing on that part was I told Francis as he was fighting with the enclosed ladder, as he was climbing, I told him, he said, well, Francis, I mean, yeah, that's terrible. Just go on the backside and just climb the tower on the backside and don't even enter the protected ladder part. And he did. So that was, and I helped run a wire and whatever, but I actually visited a lot with McGeekay because I hadn't seen either one of those guys in a while. So that was a neat thing about the trip too. So we got all that done because those guys worked so hard. And Francis was like, it reminded me of like that song, you load 16 tons and what do you get? Because Francis was there like, started helping him to hurry things on, like, and he kept saying this. I wish I could remember what he was saying, but it was like, almost like, hurry up, get going, keep it going, and it was like, and you're like, everybody's moving and shoveling faster and everybody's bringing all the cement to the spots faster. It was a crack up, but we finished it in one day, which blew my mind. So anyways, so yeah, so that, and then the dishes in Mwanza. And then we did a survey for a new station that the pastor just, Daniel, I think it's Musoma, right, getting closer back to the Kenya border with Tanzania. Just a wonderful pastor who's wanted a radio for quite a while and already has a studio. He just needs help. So, and he was one of the most open to where he showed us his church because we got there late and we saw the offices, his kids, his boys, in their, I think most of them are in their middle 20s. And they were engaged in doing a lot of the social media for the station. And the guys really got something going because he was on teaching his Christian messages on a Muslim station, because the Victoria station, at least from what I was told, was mostly a Muslim station. So kind of interesting, the whole thing. But what a beautiful family. He took us to his home even. We met, they have their 5 biological kids, and then they have 5 or 6 that they're fostering, helping, or they're involved with somehow that were also at the home. And the wife would be a lot of fun to get to know because she seemed like she could be a real hoot. But anyways, they were all, it was a neat time. And then the whole rest of the trip, oh my goodness, we got home at 6 a.m. So it was crazy, but we made it. So those 3 things, the new dishes, the cement work to prepare for a new tower in Karagwe, and then doing a survey there. And then the little bit of studio work that Francis and Dan did with wiring and stuff at Super FM. And then, yeah, mine just getting to share and stuff. I mean, it was the trip of a lifetime. It was amazing. It was something. I had to watch myself though, because I found myself, because there was so much travel and seeing so many things and so many delights to my mind and my eyes, that I a couple of times kind of fell into like I was a tourist kind of thing and forgetting, and then Francis, in his wisdom reminded me, no, Bob, we need you and we need, certain things. So, thank goodness he's that good of a friend that he would, wake me up too, because I was kind of just enjoying things so much. I was not paying attention a little bit to some of the work, but anyways, we got that righted right away. So yeah.
I'm sure you figured it out between you. That's good.
Yeah.
Could you communicate with the people, or did you need a translator?
It's so interesting. A couple of them, like John and Nathan, I think they spoke English better than me at Supa. Magize still struggles a little bit. Magike is very well spoken. The guys at the station, the one main guy there at Mwanza, the technical guy, very well spoken. Now again, because Francis told me they don't speak Swahili very much at home or around in Kenya. And so he was telling me they actually spoke it more on the trip, which at times, I mean, you can't help it. I mean, I don't want to be dishonest. You do feel it left out a little bit. But I mean, they do fill you in, so it wasn't like they were ignoring me or anything. But they're enjoying, like he told me, we're really enjoying speaking our native language because we don't speak it that much at home. I mean, their church they're going to, they did both English and Swahili, and the teaching was in English, so that was a joy because I got to be connected to that. So yeah, most of the time the communication was just fine. I could tell anybody and share, and even at the market and all those places, everybody knew what I was saying. Yeah, so they're very well English oriented there in Tanzania and for the places I was around, and in which was lots. But anyways, so yes, communication was no problem at all.
That's good. Did you have any moments where you saw God working specifically?
Well, again, right at the beginning with using Jamaica and her being able to, because it goes, well, if this is the only flights I've got, then what's going to happen to my going? Is it going to change by a day even? So that was freaking me out. So I'm not going to lie. I mean, it did. Even though I know I'm in God's hands and stuff, that stuff, it's just like, well, this is just the start. I mean, it's anyways. And then, yeah, so then that all worked out. And then again, even like I'm doing now, I mean, it was this way on the trip. And because I'm around all these people that have questions and I want to share the Lord with, I was like nonstop talking and I lost my voice. And then I wasn't feeling the greatest either because I was surrounded by sickness at home. I had a son who we spent, what was it, Thanksgiving with, and then he was sick, throwing up. And we don't know if it was food or a 24-hour flu because he got well. Then Becky was really sick and she stayed sick. I don't know. It seemed like for a month at least, coughing, really bad coughing off and on. And so that's kind of the way stuff started too. And then again, you guys all know you're kind of messed up with your sleeping, especially when it's 11, 12 hours difference like this is. And you get really fatigued. And then I'm just like, I don't know, maybe so much stuff was pent up from not sharing enough here, and just all this stuff is pouring out. We're talking about this and that. And then I start noticing, man, my throat is killing me and I'm not doing well. And so here there were these interviews and this thing going on the next day. And Brenda and all the group, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's praying. And God brought me through it. I mean, you wouldn't have known there was anything wrong with my voice on the interview and stuff and things. And so it was totally miraculous. And again, these trips are one of the biggest things that bolsters my belief in God, because I saw God do that thing that Paul experienced with his thorn in the flesh. Not that I'm being given anything because I'm something, or I experienced the third heaven, because I haven't, I'm not. But God showed me that his grace is sufficient in all things. And he took care of me. I mean, and then there was tea to drink. There was honey. There was, all kinds of things to help it along too. So I was amazed that I got through it all. And then we got back home and I was out for a day and a half. Most of it was I slept, I don't know how many hours. I was just really, really fatigued. And then God took care of that again. And I mean, 2 days we're back on the road and headed, into Tanzania. So, and he kept me through all of that too. And then on the way home, it goes, well, you know what? You can just be regular sick now. And I know God didn't really do that, but the work was completed. The things were done. The sharing was done. And then boom, I mean, I was sick for at least a week and a half, 2 weeks, plus the time change stuff. It's always worse when I come home. It takes me forever to start sleeping right again. But because I was sick and stuff, actually the first couple of days I slept pretty good. So maybe that was a blessing. I don't know. It's also interesting. But again, God's grace is sufficient always and forever. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Did you climb any towers, Bob?
I did. I mean, I didn't have my belt and stuff, but I did go up about 30, 40 feet on the one in in Mar-a-Lago, the Super FM one, and then I did climb the one that the Mwanza radio station uses too, just because to get a really good look at the Lake Victoria and the town area and take a couple of pictures, and kind of the same way there in Supa to kind of take a you know, a look at all the agriculture and stuff, because it's just agriculture everywhere, you know. And then we had that one neat thing. I think you probably saw the pictures where those two can't think of the people group's name that the radio station is trying to minister to, the kind of warrior looking guys that
Yeah, the Samburu guys.
there we go, the Samburu. Yeah. So that was, we didn't have any idea that was going to happen too, let alone they were nice enough to let us take pictures. And again, another thing I
Those were
learned,
amazing pictures. They were
Huh?
amazing pictures of those men,
Yeah.
like.
and they
unbelievable.
were so nice. And
Yeah.
again, I don't know why I would expect anything else, but they were generous and just, I don't know, just talked to us for a little bit, and it was really neat. It was something. So that station is in a really good spot. So plus they're reaching all those people in that area too. There's a lot of people there. I mean, and I wouldn't have known it without going up on the tower and looking around, because it doesn't seem, you know, like it's that big of a populated area, but there's a lot of people there they have the possibility of reaching. And they're exciting because they're using social media and stuff all over the place too. So they're a good group too. Oh, and by that, pray for me, because I'm going to do some stuff on the radio station live tomorrow for a kids thing they do. I think they do it once a week, so that's going to be interesting too. So you know, God will be in it, and hope, you know, and that'll work out too. So it's going to be hard for me because it's going to be 9 o'clock there, so it's going to be almost, you know, my time to go to bed. So it's going to be, I'll probably take a nap. That'll probably help me. But anyways, so yeah, that's going on too. So fascinating, just fascinating, all the things God is doing and using and working with. So even here at home, I mean, it was like my trip for my hearing stuff, like we turned the lobby into a sharing service about Jeremy Camp and the worship project, because a lady that was sitting there had watched it, was aware of it, knew about it too, and sharing with another daughter that was there with her mom, who then I gave out Galcom flyers and told them about Galcom, and then talked to her some more outside as we were both leaving. And then I had picked up for next to nothing a Streams in the Desert devotional, and so I gave that to her too, along with a calendar and a Galcom flyer. So there's kind of little things kind of happen all over the place too. It's I even had a guy, you know, ask me about my T-shirt I was wearing in the line at Walmart, and at first, because you're like trying to get out of there, you're not, okay, what's he asking me about? And then I got to kind of tell him a little bit about Jesus too. So I don't know, as much as people don't want to hear it, it seems like there's an openness too kind of going on. So it's fascinating for me. Yeah, so it's been interesting.
Thank you.
I
And
just
thanks
hope
for
I get to
telling
do
us
more of it.
And thanks for telling us those stories too, because the more you tell the stories, the more it makes us think, yeah, we should do that and we can do that, right? So we hear your stories and encourages us to do the right thing. So thank you.
Yeah, and everybody make sure they look up on YouTube and watch Jeremy and Adrian Camp, the worship project. It's some of the best songs I've ever heard him. And then she hasn't really done stuff with him, so it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, look that up and watch it. So yeah, it's an amazing trip of a lifetime, more of Africa than I've ever seen, you know, in my life. So road trips are amazing if you ever get a chance to be somewhere and go on one, you know, in one of these other countries. It's just amazing just to go and see and be a part of it. So anyways.
Thank you very much for sharing, Bob. Is there anybody else that has any other questions? You were listening to Bob and you thought, oh, I wonder about this, or I wonder about that. If you want to ask them, and then we'll just pray for the people in Tanzania and pray for Francis. And
so I did have a question that Bob kind of brought up, and that is, when the station is down, what is the percentage of sending out not just the radios, but with some form of Bible on it also, which would work no matter whether the radio station was up or not?
I believe, from my understanding of what I know, is all the radios leave with Christian teachings, and I believe they leave at least with the main language of that area that the radio station is going to reach, and that a Bible in that language on it. And Shelley and Al could speak to that for sure, but I believe that is the way they go out, and they load them up with as much teaching in that language too as they can find. And I think, like Alistair was saying, since there's versions of Ketchen and then they have the Bible, some of those may be going out with several different versions of the Bible on them too. I think that happens too, 2 or 3 versions sometimes. At least that's what I know from my experience with Galcom over these 10 plus years.
So is your question, Heather, related to the ones in specifically that Bob was in touch with, or are you talking about Galcom as a whole? What percentage would, yeah.
Yeah, Galcom as a whole.
And Faye is also listening, so maybe she will have some, and Ken would be a good person too, but our biggest partner, which is Every Village in South Sudan, only has radio. They do not put Bible on at this point.
Huh.
So that really skews our numbers. But if you took them out of the equation, I would say that probably 90% plus would have a Bible on them, and or teachings, various Bibles, as Bob was saying. They may not just have one, but and that's not determined by Galcom, that's determined by the partner that we work with. And I think Every Village kind of feels that they can get more radios and reach more people by keeping the cost down. So they go for more radios rather than fewer radios with Bibles.